Understanding the compact SUV world really starts with the numbers. What does a vehicle, well sized down, really deliver? Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now behind me is one such notable, the 2017 Ford Escape. This one specifically being the titanium edition with four-wheel drive. The evolution of the compact SUV has really come a long way. No longer are the exteriors plain Jane squared off designs and pretty much boring on the lots. Instead, a lot more pizzazz. Now, if you look at the competition, the Honda CR-V, the Toyota RAV4, and here the Ford Escape, they all have somewhat similarities when you look at the exterior, and what they're doing is pretty much keeping the same formula. A little bit of chiseling on an otherwise compact overall design and pretty much giving you a little bit more flair where there once wasn't any. Looking at the profile, they're all pretty much going to sweep down just the same, just a little bit lower body fascia, maybe some chiseling here and there, but pretty much a lot of wow factor in those three contenders. When looking at any SUV, you really got to judge it by its numbers, because if it's just too big, it's going to be cumbersome to drive, and well, too small, and well, you're not going to be able to take the whole family. Someone has to stay at home. What I like here with the Ford Escape is, well, the numbers are pretty decent. What you have overall is about 178 inches, wheelbase at just under 106. Decent numbers that really translate on the inside, and well, surprisingly gives you a lot more room than you may realize. Other numbers to think about really is overall height, about 5.5 feet tall, just over 6 feet wide. Those are decent numbers that translate okay for this 6-foot-plus frame, meaning anyone of any stature can pretty much feel comfort. What you also like is the overall ground clearance, really delivering extra height to get you up off the ground. And with this being four-wheel drive, that's definitely going to come in handy, well, should you go off the beaten path. Depending on model, you can get various options when it comes to the wheel size. Now, there's standard 17 and 18-inch wheels, but here on the titanium, 19 inches standard. What you also hear is the luster nickel painted rims. Now, they are kind of stark in contrast, really brighten up the four corners. And I like the new subdued approach, which is available on the Sport Appearance package in the titanium or even the SE model. Now, what does that do? It gives you a black ebony painted rim, really darkening it, gives you that more sport appearance, which you're seeing a lot of the big boy trucks are doing, and it just kind of takes it down just a little bit when it comes to overall chrome. Looking at the grille warfare on the Ford Escape, one thing you'll notice is that the front end mimics a lot of what the competition and what this segment is doing, really nosing its way through traffic, sweeping down and giving you a modest grille warfare. Now, what you see here is bright chrome accents coupled with a little bit of brushed nickel, giving you good contrast, and some more brushed nickel down here at the lower fascia. What you also see is great airflow right here through the middle, even down here down low. Now, the portholes here on the left and right, really that's just an accent. They're not operational. Now, besides grille warfare, you also have some great innovations. First, starting with the radar-like sensor up front, really couples nicely with the adaptive cruise control, senses vehicles in front, does all the workings you're probably used to. What it also does is help you with alertness. Anything that's in the way, it's going to let you know all that safety mechanisms. Lastly is a typical parking system, really getting those sensors up here, allows this vehicle to get into tight spots and really minimize scrapes and dings. Traditional keys are definitely falling by the wayside, being replaced more and more by smart key systems, making ingress into a vehicle so much quicker and easier. And it all starts really with the key fob and its design. Some of them coming a little bit different, some with more operation. And here on the Ford Escape, first notice is the overall size. It is somewhat bigger than I'm used to and takes up just a little bit more bulkiness in your pocket, but it does offer quite a bit of operation, really with the remote start, of course, the lock and unlock buttons, and the rear hatch operation. So it does take a little bit getting used to in your pocket, but it is great operations. Now, what I also like is the way Ford operates their ingress, specifically with the touch of a hand. All you really have to do is slip in here, the vehicle knows you're there, and it unlocks with ease. Even to lock it, so much simpler. Simply rub your hand here and it locks back up. Now, one thing we talk about all the time is security, not just in the doors, but also in the fill-up area. And one downer here is there is no security at all. It's simply just a hatch that opens up with ease. Now, what I do like is the capless system, something I think all vehicles will inevitably get to, and again, makes the fill-up so much quicker. On small SUVs, one bang for your buck is definitely fuel economy. This vehicle getting around 22 to 29 miles per gallon, all because of what lies beneath the hood. Now, before we get there, let's talk about operation. Getting in this vehicle, the ingress is so much simpler, but one thing you gotta understand is really the operation to sometimes pop the hood. Now, I've released it already, and what you'll find is obviously it's locked. Now, looking for the mechanism can be a little troubleshooting because you just really can't find it. And in my regards, it took me about, well, 2 or 3 minutes really to finally find it, and it's way over here on the left side, kind of a little trigger. That's going to make it lift with ease. Now, one thing you'll notice is there's no hydraulic support here. Instead, you got to go the old school method. Again, something I wish we could get away from, really going to just something that lifts up out of the way, and obviously there's a reason for that. Maybe the design just doesn't allot room for it. Now, what you're going to see here is a 2.0 liter EcoBoost engine. That's going to deliver great fuel efficiency, of course, but also decent horsepower, around about 245 horses and 275 foot-pounds of torque. Now, the engine is coupled with a 6-speed automatic. One thing designers did well was make sure this vehicle looks good all the way around, taking that front-end dynamic approach and definitely applying it back here. And you can see that in the chisel-like effects, really these nice stylized rear taillights, all housed under a nice clear lens and got some chrome accents underneath. Now, when it comes to the rear end hatch design, you'll notice there's no real extended spoiler, but instead they made this more operational, giving you a lot more interior volume just the same. Nice broad rear glass, giving you great visibility, but well, that's not necessary because you do have a backup camera and those backup sensors really giving you 360 kind of sensor overload on this vehicle. You definitely shouldn't get any scrapes and dings. Now, when it comes to the operation back here at the rear hatch, again, you have the button on the key fob, but one feature I truly liked and operates really well here on the Ford Escape versus some other models I've tested really is the hands-free approach. And what you do is you walk up, simply wave your leg, step back, and it's going to pop right open. Now, once it does that, it gives you nice access into the vehicle. Now, again, I'm over 6 foot tall, and look at this clearance here. Really, this rear hatch getting up out of the way. Now, once it's open, what you're going to see is around about 34 cubic feet of space, a whopping amount of cargo area, something really a sedan can never even get close to. Now, once you look at that and, well, lay down the rear seats, you can double that easily when you transform that back seat into cargo area. For this titanium edition, we definitely enjoyed the leather appointments and the sport style seating up front with the nice quilted like stitching, provided extra support and, well, just a little bit of bolstering. We'll find somewhat standard bench styling, but they did give the outside passengers a little bit more comfort with that quilted like stitching we saw in the front. Now, as for the center passenger, that's not a bad place to be either, because you'll notice that there's really no difference when it comes to the comfort. What you also notice is there's no hump down here, meaning pretty much there's plenty of room for all feet and all passengers. Reclinability for the second row is a must, and they do it in the form of a manual bar right here, allowing the seat backs to be adjusted to give a little bit more comfort. Even better comfort is the nice elbow support for the outer passengers and, well, dual cup holders to boot. To help airflow to the back seats, you're going to find nice, huge, oversized vents in the back of the front center console, delivering airflow quite quickly to the back passengers. What you also found down below is a nice house power outlet. That's going to be for anybody that wants to charge devices quite quickly. Now, one thing we didn't find was the old standard USB connection, but I'll take the house outlet because it powers much quicker. To transition the second row from people to cargo, it's made real easily. First, you're going to need to fold these down. What's great is you don't actually have to get rid of the headrest like on some SUVs, but instead you just simply fold it. Now, once you do that, you will use the recliner handle right here. That will tumble the whole second row nice and flat. Now, with the split like it is, you can definitely keep one occupant and some cargo, or keep two and give a little bit of cargo space. Now, depending on what vehicle models you drive the most, whether it be GM, Chevy, Honda, whatever, the biggest difference really will come down to their entertainment, well, in the overall usage. Now, what you'll see here is a huge oversized screen, and it is touchscreen, but you will notice that the screen is somewhat of a stretch away. Instead, you're primarily going to use this central area right here. Now, one thing I did notice was that, well, it is the volume control nice and centered right here. Select modes right there. Now, what the hardest part is really being able to reach that, and it is somewhat positioned somewhat high above the center cluster. Now, what I would like better is for the buttons right here. Now these do operate quite nicely, and what you have is the volume as well and the selecting for the tune. Now the one thing to note about the tune select is that it will select your presets quite easily. However, to transition maybe to the next station, well, that's a little bit more difficult. You simply got to press it a little bit longer. Now that takes a little bit more timing because you press it too long, well, it skips 2 or 3 stations. I'd like for this operation, well, to fine tune just like that knob. Now I mentioned the adaptive cruise control earlier, and this is one feature I truly like. Now what you do is you simply turn it on here, and then of course set it when you're ready to get the cruise going. This will allow the space to be differentiated between the car in front of you, allow you to be more of a tailgater, or give you more breathing room. This vehicle does have a 6-speed automatic transmission, but you can, well, make it a little bit more sporty with the paddle shifters on the steering wheel, but I prefer to keep this little peppy little thing doing the work for itself, and well, forget about these little things here. For the climate control, again, difference in models, different in brand. Going to take a little bit getting used to. Now the first thing is the nice symmetric temperature select for both driver and passenger, and you just dial it in and the readout is right there in the middle. As for fan, what I don't see is a nice oversized knob, but instead the fan select here. Now that takes a little bit more of maybe diving in as you're driving, takes a little bit second off the road to find that button. Instead, centralized knob right here would make that so much easier. Then you could even locate these buttons on the knob and well simplify the overall operation. The EcoBoost technology comes with one standard feature, and that is the on-off technology for the engine. Pretty much get to a stop sign, it shuts down, press the gas, it starts back up. Now this is one feature I mentioned numerous times that I don't like, so this is definitely a button you want to press to turn that off. For the gauge cluster, you are going to find the standard analog tach and speedometer, but they are housed in a more dynamic like housing, really jazzing up the whole gauge cluster. What I also like is that LCD screen right there in the middle, and it is colorized. What I also like is that speed, that digital readout gives you such a precise reading, and man, right there where you want it. One thing to note about the overall ergonomics when it comes to the cabin, well, it's a lot of things are well an arm stretch away. Even shutting down the vents, you'll find the control way up here on top versus some type of toggle system that you could use on the vent itself. Instead, well, you got to reach way up here and well, turn it on or off. Looking for that USB connector I mentioned earlier, you'll definitely find one up front there underneath all the center stack cluster. Nice USB connect and a power outlet. But one thing I didn't find was a typical auxiliary jack you would typically find right here. For elbow support, there's a nice oversized center console for both front occupants. Now what you'll find is it's a 2-tier system. There's a handle right up front, a left handle and a right. Simply pull the right, that'll give you access to the upper tier. Press it down, pull the left side, that'll give you for the deeper storage. Now what you'll find in there is that USB connector that you could access from the back seat, and also another typical power supply. With all the electronic gadgets, one thing I like is nice niches, and this one right here really can handle any size phone. Kind of stands it up right there, especially if you're Bluetoothing. You definitely don't need to access it since everything's going through the car. Now there are nice deep double cup holders with nice extra gaskets on the inside to, well, squeeze your drinks. Now this little niche right here won't take the oversized phones, and it won't stand anything up that is well too big, but it does handle change quite well. Up above on the ceiling you will find 2 controls right here, and that's going to operate the oversized glass panel on the ceiling. Now what that does is pretty much give you a huge amount of glass above your head, and for this bald guy, definitely keep it closed on a sunny day. But once it's out of the way, you definitely have a lot of light in this otherwise dark cabin. Now if you do want to give the open air feel, the first half will definitely let in some air. That does it for this edition of Road Warrior and our test drive behind the wheel of the 2017 Ford Escape Titanium Edition. Now again, this was 4-wheel drive, giving that grip at the corners, and came with that decent power plant, really delivering the horsepower that was, well, unexpected, and of course great interior volume. Now again, if you overlook the small compact SUV market, you may realize, well, you're paying way too much for bigger SUVs when you can actually fit in something that's a little bit more scaled down. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.